And hello world, welcome to Event Log, a weekly bite-sized vlog where we cover the latest happenings in tech within 4 segments, sponsored by Team Logic IT, North San Antonio, your local IT provider, nationwide experience, and brain power. As we know, the 4 segments are broken down into Tech This Out, Hack Attack, Millibyte, and Crypto Corner. Let's start with the Tech This Out, and we will transition to Business Insider's article here. This one goes mostly out to Texans because this is who it's affecting right now, but this is a potentially worldwide concern because it involves Internet of Things technology and centralized control over what your devices are doing in your own house. Mind you, these are devices that you bought or paid for. That's the concern, is devices that you paid for. But let's not get too ahead of ourselves. Let's just cover what this article actually means, or what's going on here. So, a Texas power company partnered with a technology company, and what they did is they enticed consumers to install these devices, these thermostats in their homes, and these are smart thermostats. So if you haven't used one or if you haven't seen one, they're pretty nifty, they're pretty neat, allowing you to program them to behave in certain ways throughout the day, depending on how cold or hot it gets, depending on whatever parameters you set. So it's pretty neat. So it does, in theory, allow you to save some energy, which means you save some money at the end of the month. But what happens when you've contracted with the power company who works together with this tech company to control the the temperature in your own home without you being able to have much of a say? And that's what happened here. So imagine trying to trying to use your thermostat the way it's intended to because you're paying for it, and suddenly you see a sign on it, or you see a message on the thermostat that says, you're not going to be allowed to change this for a while because you signed a contract. And the benefit, the enticement to consumers was getting the chance to get some sort of prize in the lottery. So you're not even really getting much. It's just the opportunity to win something. In this article, I don't think it says what you have the chance to win. I'd have to dig further. In either case, the reality here, the ramifications are that maybe more and more people are going to be willing to sign off their rights to devices in their own home that they paid for, and just be at whatever, the mercy of the centralized entity decides to do with their home's temperature. Granted, this could be a long-term sort of thing, or there could be benefits here where if all of us are connected to the same system, the smart system, we can all know, hey, you have the chance to save X amount of money if you raise it up to this amount because there's X amount of load on the power grid. So, consider lowering it or raising your temperatures a little bit, and you're set to save a lot more money at this time of day, given the current power load. So all that to say, fascinating stuff. I didn't know this was possible, but it is. They're doing it now. People getting what they think is a sweet deal on technology, but it turns out their temperature is being managed by some authority. Fascinating. On to the next. What is it? Tech This Out. The next. Okay, this is gonna kill me if I don't. Segment. There you go. Sometimes you just need to know the word, or it just eats at you. I'm sure you're all familiar. Anyway, Tech This Out. Segment 2, rather, Hack Attack Segment 2. This one is interesting. So there was a recent case in the Supreme Court where they handled this specific U.S. Computer Fraud and Abuse Act. It's a federal regulation that handles how we all interact with each other when it comes to using computers. This is either remotely or on site, so you're working either at an office or you're logging into a computer remotely. There's a lot of intricacies here, but most importantly, what happened in this Supreme case is a net positive for anyone in IT, because the idea behind this Computer Fraud and Abuse Act was to limit, or not limit, but to sanction or criminalize any unauthorized use of computers. So unauthorized use is a massive blanket term that can apply to almost anything. So unauthorized use, even if you should be working, or even essentially you could get away with, or you could get in trouble for using a computer the way you thought was reasonable or correct, but it turns out there was some subtext or something in your company's bylaws that would mean you using a certain computer was unauthorized, and then all of this to say you're breaking federal laws, which have much bigger consequences than state or city, county laws. So yeah, this is a big win. This is because for cybersecurity researchers, cybersecurity firms who perform things like penetration tests are trying to get into clients' computers in an unauthorized way. So they're trying to find the ways to get into a device to discover what vulnerabilities you might have in your network. And this is, in a sense, unauthorized use or unauthorized interaction with computers, which is breaking federal law. So people in the cybersecurity space, we are performing penetration tests, but there is this looming question and uncertainty when it comes to laws of, well, I'm technically using unauthorized means of accessing my client's network and their computers. Am I breaking federal laws? Am I in big trouble here? Obviously, there's always a lot more nuance, but people always appreciate a bit more clarification, which this Supreme Court case did give, which all of this goes to say people in the space are considering or hoping that the federal regulators will reconsider the act, let me just get the name right, the U.S. Computer Fraud and Abuse Act, that they'll reconsider it and perhaps give it a bit more context or give it a bit more clarification, set parameters that actually deal with the real life way in which our society deals with just this world of IT that's ever evolving, the ways that we use and intermingle each other's access to computers and data. I think all of that matters, and I think that more clarification is good. But as always, I mean, I guess it is partially the attorney's job, we must have attorneys who are more educated and understand better the use and the interconnection between, IT and law. Because I think proper use requires intent and authorization and obviously outcome. All of these things interwoven, should mean something. So just because you use something in a way that it wasn't intended, you should not be breaking federal regulations for that. So yeah, and I think if we're going to keep evolving in terms of IT and technology in this realm, I think you need to be allowed to act on the fringes and break a few things here and there. Obviously, not things that really matter. Like we're not trying to break pipelines, utilities, anything like that. But research and investigation and R&D are pivotal to whether we make any headway in this arms race of cyber attacks. So that was segment 2 for Hack Attack. We got a bit deep in the weeds there. Sorry about that, but had to be done. All right, segment 3 in Millibyte, covering something a bit, I don't want to say morbid, but the word robot actually has pretty dark undertones as far as where the word robot comes from. The word robot comes from a Czech playwright, is that how you say it? Czech, Czech playwright and novelist, from a play in the 1920s where the word robot the root word is Robota. Robota. I don't know how they say it. Robota right here. And it means servitude, forced labor, or drudgery. And the word robot has now evolved to be what it means today, which is a mechanical device with some sort of programming to do certain things. So if you want to get down to it, are all humans Robota in a sense, where we're programmed for servitude, forced labor, or drudgery? I don't have such a cynical take. I think it depends on where you live and what opportunities and what hand you were dealt. But we don't want ourselves or others to be, in this sense, or we don't want them to be put into servitude, forced labor, or drudgery. We would prefer people are doing that of their own, or working or performing things because they chose to, because of freedom of choice and decisions. We want to believe that this world, what do we want to call it? Agreement, this social agreement that we have is all because of free will and a free marketplace of ideas and decisions. The more free the society, I think the more interesting the configuration of work to freedom we will have. Not to get too philosophical, clearly that's the route that this episode has taken. I think that's fine. I think we roll with it. Okay. Interesting, the word for robot, Robota, dark undertones. Yeah, are we going to program robots with feelings and emotions? And when will they say, no more work, time for play? That'll be interesting. All right, on to segment 4. We go on to the crypto corner. So this one is really interesting. El Salvador recently, as of early in June, has adopted Bitcoin in via federal mandate or via a top-down mandate. The country of El Salvador is telling its citizens, hey, you are going to now accept Bitcoin as legal tender. Now, Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies as a decentralized money, it's 100% voluntary. So the technology, the network itself doesn't demand that you use it. It's just there. It's an option. We have considered the reality that countries might adopt cryptocurrencies, and when they do, I think it would be cause for celebration. But there's a small caveat here. What if the country demands that its citizens accept the cryptocurrency or Bitcoin? Is that negative? Is that net negative or net beneficial? And I think it really comes down to the details. How exactly is a country going to force its citizens to accept cryptocurrency as legal tender? I think once you force a market to act a certain way, you get negative side effects and consequences. I think, so, and I don't want to take the words from Nick Carter's mouth, but so Nick Carter wrote an article here, the follow-up to this news about El Salvador forcing its citizens to accept Bitcoin. He believes that this blanket regulation maybe could be, tweaked a little bit. So Article 7 is the article in question, where it says every economic agent must accept Bitcoin as payment when offered to him by whoever acquires a good or service. Now, there is an additional article later on in the proviso that says that it's not, that it will be, whatever economic agent is accepting Bitcoin will be helped, or who can't accept it yet due to technological constraints will be assisted in some form or fashion by the government to start accepting crypto. But I think this manner of forcing people to accept something is very problematic, because certain economic actors or agents might not be ready, or just flat out don't want to accept Bitcoin as legal tender. And I think that the whole point of money or value, items of value in our society are chosen, should be chosen freely. Once you start coercion, or once you begin coercing agents to use things without them wanting to, I think you will get unintended negative consequences. And I think leaving it to the free market to decide, hey, this money is actually rising in value compared to this other money that I'm using, I think I'm going to spend the less valuable money first and get rid of it, and start accumulating more of this other money that seems to be accruing value and seems to be opt-in, so voluntary and not demanded. But one good point here would be, or at least the silver lining here, is that El Salvador won't be taxing let's just say you buy Bitcoin, right, in an exchange, and then you try to spend it. El Salvador won't be taxing you on the spending of such cryptocurrencies, whereas in the US and in other countries, if you buy Bitcoin today and spend it tomorrow, you would have to determine the change in value, because the selling, or rather the spending of the Bitcoin, will become a taxable event. And creating taxable events anytime you spend your Bitcoin is very problematic. And I think that the benefits, or rather the countries that remove that concept or remove the taxable events from spending Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies, are going to be the countries that see the most adoption, or at least less friction in adoption. So where there's a will, there's a way. If owning crypto is still much more valuable than not owning it, and even if there are consequences or troubles or friction in the regulatory environment, I still think an economy will adopt whatever it needs to thrive and survive as needed. So yeah, that's been our 4 segments. That's been Event Log for this week. Again, we are sponsored by TeamLogic IT. Thank you very much for tuning in. Until next week, bye.